Namaste. Welcome to Vishwa Yoga. My name is Vishwa. Today I will talk about the Shakta philosophy. This video is the continuation and second part of Shiva Shakti philosophy. I assume you have already watched my previous video on Shaiva philosophy and understood the 36 tattvas, which are common in Shakta tradition as well, but with minor differences, which I will share later in this video. But if you have not watched the previous video, then I suggest you to watch that first. I will also add some important video links in the description here. One thing I want to mention, that the Shakta tradition uses symbolic eroticism to explain the philosophy. You will find the same principles are shared in both Orthodox and non-Orthodox way. I will share a tiny glimpse of both ways later in this video. So use the one which is easier for you to understand, though it will make this video a little longer. However, it may be worth sharing this. For example, the worship of Devi's yoni, the portrayal of Shiva Lingam, depiction of Shiva Shakti in the sexual union or mathuna, etc. On one hand, conservatives and orthodox thinkers simply cannot digest it, and on the other hand, the Shakti as portrayed on the top of Shiva in Viparit Rati and standing on his chest, some people use it for feminism. In my understanding, both did not understand the spiritual significance, rather reflecting their conditioning. To convey the Shakta philosophy, I will use multiple references of different Tantric texts for explaining the core principles. But to name just a couple for consistency, I will use the text Yogini Hridayam, or the heart of a yogini as revealed by Shiva when asked by Shakti, and text Shakti Sutra written by Agastya, which complements Shiva Sutra in Shakta tradition. In the text Yogini Hridayam, it says, "What man knows the heart of a woman? Only Shiva knows the heart of yogini." Here Adi Shakti is referred to as yogini, as the heart of Lord Shiva, and the cosmic heart is the supreme self which creates millions of worlds. Different texts define the same principle in different ways using different terms, and sometimes that can be very confusing. I will try my best to keep it simple and easy. You will get to know different interpretation still. So in this video, I will focus on the key tattvas out of 36 tattvas, which I previously talked in Shaiva philosophy. As you also saw how Samkhya and Yoga philosophies are contained within it. But here I will focus on the evolution of consciousness from Shakta point of view, and then dive into the concept of Nad, Bindu, and Kamakala, which is the source of all mantras and tattvas. So without going into complexities, you will know how sound manifests and turns into the letter or akshara, matrika, which makes the word or shabda, which has earth or meaning, then roop or forms as manifested reality. It is an interesting process of one supreme to become many, from unmanifested or supreme void to manifested reality. So please stay tuned till the end. But first, you may be wondering that if 36 tattvas are the same, then why two different philosophies, or how Shakta philosophy is different than Shaiva philosophy? If I say in just one word, then it is interpretation. To understand this, let me go back to the highest level or highest principle first to as how the supreme reality is defined in Shakta philosophy. So to give you a contrast, in Shaiva Darshana, Shiva is considered supreme reality and the source of everything, and Shakti is the power of Shiva which emanates from his desire and manifestation begins. In summary, the supreme reality is the masculine principle in Shaiva as well as in Vaishnava tradition. But in Shakta Darshana, this supreme source is called Adi Shakti or Parashakti or Ambika, the source of everything. And the manifestation spontaneously begins when desired by Shakti. Here Shiva remains the Sakshi or witness. So, in Shakta tradition, the supreme reality is the feminine principle with the basic understanding that it is the mother who gives birth, not the father. In Rig Veda, in Devi Bhagavatam, and in Brahmanda Puran, Devi proclaims that she is the mother and the empress, and from her everything manifests. It is her desire for the life of form or rupa which produces this universe. This desire exists and is held in the echoate state in the Divine Mother as her formless supreme transcendental state or Swarupa. And when this supreme power or energy is manifested by her spontaneous desire, it is referred to as Brahmand or Vishwa, the universe. So now, where is Shiva here? So to understand this, think of a grain of gram or chana. Within a seed or covering, two seeds are found in close union, but they are held together as one. In the same way, the Adi Parashakti divides herself as two, as Shiva and Shakti for the creation like Ardhanarishwara. It is also known as Parapurusha or pure consciousness and Paraprakriti or pure energy as masculine and feminine principle respectively. But at the transcendental level, it is one reality. Either you can call it Param Shiva in Shaiva tradition or Adi Parashakti in Shakta tradition or Sat Chit Anand or Brahman in Vedanta. It is neither male nor female, but one formless reality from which everything manifests. So let me emphasize and make it clear that at the supreme level, there is no duality. That's why it is referred to as Advait or Brahman or Nirguna, Ashabda, Nishkriya, Amanask, means the one who is attributeless, soundless, actionless, with no mind. So neither Shiva nor Shakti is superior because it is the one entity, but referred to as multiple names. The inward state of Adi Shakti is known as Shiva, and the outward projection is called Shakti, if it makes you clear to understand this difference. The same reality is known as Prakash or light, Chit Shakti, Ambika, pure consciousness, Chaitanya, and the Bimarsh as Shant Shakti or pure energy or power stays in inactive state. So no activity takes place at that level. It is like a completely restful state. This state is also called pralaya or dissolution. It is like a clean slate of pure consciousness. Yet Shiva and Shakti are inseparable like the moon and its rays. In the text Tripura Siddhant and Tripura Rahasya, This Mahashakti is called Tripura Sundari as one and the only root or Mool Tattva or Mahatattva. So in summary, this is the non-dual Shakta philosophy, which is also known as Tripura Darshana. Now let's see how manifestation begins. As Adi Parashakti desires to manifest or projects herself, she first divides herself in two, Shiva and Shakti, from fully restful or inactive to active state. Now here, restful, unmoving and inactive state of the Supreme is called Shiva Tattva, also known as Sunyati Sunya, or the very void, where the self is not looking anywhere. It is empty of objective content. On the other hand, the second Tattva is Shakti, which is still unmanifested and inseparable will or Ichha, yet full of potential and content, but in the latent state. The highest state is worshipped in the form of Shivlingam and Yoni, representing masculine and feminine principles. So from this indistinguishable state of pure bliss, the creation begins. And now the Shakti is classified into three different types. One is the Nirguna or transcendental as Adi Shakti. Second is Purusha as a masculine Shiva. And third as a Prakriti or Nari as Devi or feminine Shakti, which further gets classified as Para or supreme, Sukshma or subtle, and Sthul or gross. Thus, the being of Sat is of two kinds, formless or Arupa, and with form means with Rupa. And the progression of each Tattva is like the evolution or journey of consciousness from the transcendental state to the subtle to gross level, from Arupa to Rupa, and expressed as non-dual in duality as a play of perfect to appear imperfect. So as the Shakti desires to set the creation in motion, the best way to describe is as Ardhanarishwara, Shiva as a half male and half female, but it is more popular in Shaiva tradition. However, in Shakta tradition, the concluding sloka of Lalita Sahasranam says, Shri Shiva, Shiva Shakti Ekkyarupani Lalitambika. Here each word is Devi's name. But the one I wanted to emphasize is Shiva Shakti Ekkyarupani, which means one universal reality, which is the union of Shiva Shakti as Ekkyarupani or one form. Means Adi Shakti divides herself as Kameshwara and Kameshwari, or in the form of Shiva and Shakti, and Kamakala or passionate play takes place. I will further talk about the story of Kamakala later in this video. So these first two tattvas, Shiva and Shakti, are like always together, but are presented separately here for the philosophical explanation. This Shiva Shakti tattva is not an emanation because it remains the same during creation or dissolution. It is the seed and the Om of the whole universe. So as the Vimarsha Shakti awakens from the restful state for the creation, Shiva Shakti Mathuna happens. Here Shiva penetrates Shakti, but Shakti stays in an active role, who creates the first movement or spanda, as a result giving birth to the next tattva. This first emanation or manifestation is also called Abhas of and by consciousness is called Sadashiva Tattva, which gives birth to the universe in the form of primordial sound as a nad. This sound comes from the union of Shiva Shakti. This is the commencement of the first subjective formation of ideas. It is also called nimesh, closing of eyes, which means an introverted or internalized idea. This tattva in Mantra Shastra is called Mahanad or Supreme Primordial Sound, usually referred to as Pranava, which is the source of all avatars. In both Vedic and Tantric tradition, sound Om is considered Pranava. However, in Shaiva tradition, Pranava also refers to the sound Hum, and in Shakta tradition, the sound Hrim. This is the first manifested form of Shiva as Sadashiv for Shaivas, Mahadevi for Shaktas, Mahavishnu for the Vaishnavas as Shaguna Brahman. But they have not yet taken the state of a deity or personal god. This is Sakala state, means their Shakti as a Kala, means rays or activities begin to manifest. So when Shakti is individualized, then she is called Kala. In Vedanta, it is called Nada Brahman, which further develops and emanates into the next tattva, Ishvara. So the Ishwar tattva is also called Mahabindu in Mantra Shastra. Here consciousness completely identifies itself with the universe and thus subjectifies it and becomes a point or bindu of consciousness. It is the state of unmesh, like the opening of the eyes, as an outward or upward movement along with full of potential or Shakti. Now the sound becomes the Shabd or speech sound to create meaning. This state is also known as Shabda Brahman, very closely linked with Nad. So avatar begins in a Nad but gets fully established and ready for action in the state of Bindu. Thus, here Mahadev for Shaiva, Mahavishnu for Vaishnava, and Mahadevi for Shakta establish with their power of creation, maintenance, and destruction as the Ishvara or Ishwari. This is the personification of the supreme deity or God entity in Vedic or Tantric tradition. So this potent point or Mahabindu is full of Shakti, represents the three Bindus within, representing Kamakala, which I will come back to it after summarizing these major tattvas. So the next tattva is known as Shuddha Vidya or pure knowledge or pure wisdom in the form of mantras, where the consciousness knows clearly that this is my manifestation, especially when other tattvas manifest from here onwards. This manifestation and experience are said to be the nature and in the form of mantra. The process of manifestation of mantras is that of cosmic ideation or Srishti Kalpana, in which Jnana Shakti first merely formulates as thought, which outlines the limited universe which is about to merge from, in which the consciousness as thinkable or mantabya through Nad as Kriya Shakti Roop with Ichcha or will moves towards the speakable or Vachya. Here the consciousness identifies itself as Bindu with predominance of activity along with Jnana as what to manifest. The primordial sound Om here in Bindu, each letter together produces diversity. Makara in the Maya Tattva, Ukara is Shakti Tattva, which creates objects or prameya as separate existence. And by the completion of the Tattva, objectivity is completely revealed as Akara or Shiv Tattva. So Suddha Vidya is the end of pure Tattva and where mixed Tattva begins with Maya Tattva. From Pranava sound gradually manifests letter, matrika, words and forms or rupas. Thus mantra came into existence as the pure form in which Shiva Shakti or divinity is accessible to us, and Om is the source of all mantras. It is said that all the mantras, roughly 70 millions, were given by Lord Shiva, who is the same as Shakti. So below the pure mantra tattva, Maya Shakti comes into the play with Purusha and Prakriti tattva, which I have already covered in the previous video. But here I will do a quick summary. As you know, the power of Maya Shakti divides I and this, or Shiv and Shakti, with 5 kanchukas or limitations. Thus, each jiva is subject to time and space, birth and death, limitations and desires. At the base, the experience is nothing but the experiencer, but it is not realized until the bonds of Maya is released. In the pure state, there is no duality, but in an impure state, due to the influence of Maya, this subject and object appear different. And we see and experience this universe as a manifested world of the different objects and forms. In Vedanta, the same Maya is called illusion, avidya or ignorance. And in Shiva Shakti philosophy, Purusha is the Atma or Sadashiva under the influence of Maya, who has forgotten his true nature and is now Jiva. The self with capital S has become the individual self. Keep in mind, this Purusha does not mean a man here, but every particle of this creation. And Prakriti is the Shanta Shakti in the contracted form with 3 gunas. As Prakriti differentiates into the multiple beings, that makes the universe. So this is Purusha and Prakriti Tattva. So on the high level, this is Shakta Darshana. Other principle or meanings of Tattva I have already covered in the previous video. Now, having the foundation of these 36 Tattvas, next I will dive into Kamakala theory. So what is Kamakala in Shakta philosophy? The word Kama simply means desire and Kala means activities, rays or kriya. So now manifestation and dissolution are explained in terms of Kamakala. The desire of Supreme to manifest in many forms as the light emits the rays. But to give you different explanations, I will be again referring to multiple texts. I will start again with Nirguna or formless state without Kala, and then come back to Saguna or manifested state with Kala. This is another way of explaining the highest principles in Shakta philosophy. So the supreme state is described beautifully by Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It says, he indeed was just as man and woman in mutual embrace and love, when there is neither within nor without, when all thoughts of lover, loving and loved is forgotten in the joy of this blissful unity. This bliss is supreme love. The experience is spaceless, timeless, full, all-knowing, almighty. This is the state of Paramashiva or Parashakti without Kala or activities, also called Nishkala, beyond all tattvas. Thus, Adi Parashakti is both Shiv and Shakti as male and female, plus beyond as one formless entity. In Brahmanda Purana, Ma Kameshwari is none other than the Supreme Brahman, who playfully took the role or form of both Kameshwara and Kameshwari as Shiva and Shakti. Thus, the Supreme Brahman is represented in both forms as the ultimate and the absolute. In this absolute form, she is called Prakash Bimarsh Mahamaya Swarupini. Here, you can visualize her playing a role of both a masculine and a feminine form. She is called Tattvagram Swarupini. This means all 36 tattvas are manifestation of her rupa or form. So, she is the Shiva, Shakti, Maya, Purusha and Prakriti. The further description reveals the Kama Kala. As you can see, both forms have 4 hands and holds the same weapon. Both of them have a moon in their crowns. Here, male form of Mahakameshwara is pure, transparent and colorless. He is seated on a throne with his left leg folded and his right foot placed on the ground. On the other hand, female form Mahakameshwari is the red complexion beauty incarnate, radiating with a smile that is filled with joy and grace and ever ready to help her devotee walking towards Mahakameshwara with full of bashfulness. Kameshwara's pure, transparent and colorless form gradually starts to turn red with every step Devi puts forward towards him. It is said swans are praised for their agile walk, are ashamed of themselves for noticing the way she walks towards him. So Mahakameshwara beams with a loving smile on seeing her. She sits on his left thigh with her right leg folded and left foot placed on the golden vessel filled with rubies. The moment she placed her left foot on the vessel, the red color of the rubies reflects everywhere. When she sits on his lap, his form also turns red. Both of them are radiating, and when gods and goddesses look at them, they mistake the bright red radiation emanating from them like the sun. This divine couple always stays united, thus called Shiva Shakti Ekkarupani. Remember, I talked about just few minutes ago. This form is called the absolute form, and nothing beyond this form exists. From this point of union, as the spontaneous desire dawns, the manifestation begins. This is the simplest explanation, in which now Devi is said to be the Kama Kala. Now let me go little further for more clarity. So as per the text Kama Kala Vilasa, the same is explained in slightly different way. Shiva and Shakti are represented as the universal subject and cosmic object. Their infinite nature is symbolized by 2 trans-dimensional points referred to as Bindu, a point or a drop. Shiva is represented by a white point or Shukla Bindu for Prakash or light, as well as masculine principle representing sperm, and Shakti by a red point or Shonit Bindu for Bimarsha, the vibratory force representing feminine principle with menses. Both expand and contract. The third Bindu is the product or child of their union, which is called Mishra Bindu or the Kama. In this Bindu, both creation and dissolution process takes place. How? This is how it is explained. So in the state of Mathuna or sexual union, when white Shiva penetrates red Shakti, Shiva transforms into red Shiva, which results in a bindu as a point. And as the red Shakti transforms into white Shakti, this results in the bindu to split and give birth to Nad. So this Mool Bindu in the united form is the root of creation. Whenever there is a vibration in the bindu, Nad is born, and from that other tattvas manifest. The relationship of this mixed bindu and Nad is like a mother and child. Thus, there is an evolution of sound into light, which gives rise to form. As they stay together, there is a vibration or a spandan in bindu, a kind of throb or a heartbeat. This signifies that bindu is the center of existence with the highest potential, just before it bursts into the transcendental Nad Om. This is how the creation of universe begins. Now dissolution. When red Shiva penetrates white Shakti, they transform into each other again as white Shiva and red Shakti. And as the white Shiva withdraws from red Shakti, this begins or marks the moment of transcendence and the withdrawal of the universe. Now Shakti merges in Shiva as the introverted awareness, going back to one supreme formless state of pure transcendental I consciousness. This is the dissolution state. So as you can see, they exchange roles. When one comes in the forefront and becomes manifestly apparent, the other recedes in the background as unmanifested, as inner nature of the other. The two moments of transcendence and immanence, Shiva and Shakti, thus imply one another. If you understood this, it will not confuse you if Shiva Shakti is one or two. So going back to the creation, when Shiva and Shakti, the two aspects of the pure vibration of consciousness, are understood as one reality, this union and symbol are presented as single dot or bindu. It represents both the integral unity of the absolute and the fertile potential of consciousness, which is like a seed swollen and ready to germinate into cosmic manifestation. So the light emanating from this friction caused by the vibration or spandan in bindu due to active union and subsequent emergence of sound is known as kala or ray, which is produced due to the kama or the desire to create. So kala is like a ray of light, has very high intensity and is spread out in all directions for further evolution. Nada is produced here as sound. So this kala and nad penetrates all the tattvas that compose matter as it is being formed. This nad is both para and apara. Even our human body is made of nad and kala or sound and light. So collectively all three bindus are represented as one bindu called Mahabindu or Parabindu, called Supreme Shakti Ambika, with infinite power and potential. This Kamkala subsists in the Mahabindu, is without parts. So there are three main aspects of Kamkala, starting from sound as Para, manifesting as a mantra, to subtle and internal as Kundalini, and then as gross and external as manifested reality. So Nad and Bindu are the progenitors of tattvas, the building blocks of the universe. Supreme consciousness divides itself into subject and object in time and space. If you are looking at the symbol Om, the bindu or the point is symbolized by both a full moon and a crescent moon. The crescent moon is associated with kalas or phases of the moon and is progressively reveals. The dot or bindu is also called Anuswar, and a crescent moon also called Visarga in Sanskrit. So Shiva and Shakti as 2 points together make up the 2 aspects of Visarga, and the single dot or bindu is the union. In some texts, the semicircle is also described as a nad. As I said before, Om is the source of all the mantras and all tattvas. It represents 3 states of our consciousness: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And the bindu is the 4th state as turiya or pure consciousness. When this primordial sound, pranava, takes the form, it is called akshara, which means imperishable or indestructible, which is further represented as letters. Strictly speaking, bindu is a circle with void inside. The confining circle is the Shakti, while the void is Shiva. Think of a bindu as singularity with no dimension from which everything proceeds. Now, going back to this Shiva as Kameshwara is called the desire or passion or kama, because this state is sought and desired by great yogis. Shiva is also symbolized in the mystic alphabet by the first letter or akshara and vowel of Sanskrit called A, or in English A, which stands for the absolute. The last member of the vowel in Sanskrit is called Visarga and pronounced as half H or Ah, or written as with 2 dots. This is the form or swarupa of Kameshwari, the mistress of passion, which is the power of reflective awareness or Vimarsha Shakti through which absolute unfolds and withdraws its cosmic form. It also symbolizes the ongoing emanation or prasar of the universe. She is also known as Kala, the divine power or ray of consciousness manifest as the continuous transformation or spanda or vibration of the union. Thus, sound A and Ha are the 2 ends of the cycle, are united by their passion, desire, or calm in totality of aham or I consciousness, known as Kama Kala. Finally, I will conclude with the explanation using the yantra as mentioned in Yogini Hridayam. This Kama Kala is represented with 2 intersecting triangles. One triangle pointing upward, denoting Shiva or masculine energy, and the other pointing downwards, representing Shakti or feminine energy. And from this union, 3 bindus are realized. These 3 points of lights are represented as sun at the top as her face, also called a bindu, and the bottom 2 points represents Visarga as fire and moon as her breast. So, sun represents the offspring as Nad, further manifesting as Shabda Brahman or Vak Shakti, relates to Shamaved. Fire breast represents the Shakti as Rigved, and moon breast represents Shiva as Yajurved. The apex of the downward pointing triangle, if you will see closely here, is called her yoni, which represents Atharved. This yoni here at the bottom of the triangle is represented with the sound Ha, is Ardhakala, which is ever expanding, and the sound between A and Ha, the symbol you see E, which represents the Kundalini energy. So these 2 triangles with Kundalini inside of them are considered a symbol of the totality, and from A to Ha, turning as Aham or I am, or simply also denoted as M, represents the co-presence of the sexually united Shiva and Shakti. This Ardhakala is also known as Nad, from which the power of speech or Vak Shakti and also the mantras came into manifestation, which connects the next Tattva or Suddha Vidya Tattva. In the text Yoni Tantra, Lord Shiva says, Vishnu, Brahma, all the saints and sages, and myself, all were born from this Yoni. So this universe is produced from her causal womb or Yoni and then withdrawn back to the same. As you can relate this to the symbolic reverence of Shiva Lingam and Yoni. In summary, this Kamakala is sometimes also called the supreme power or Shakti. Here Kala is said to be the limiting form of power. These three Bindus are also known as Bindu, Bij and Nad. As mentioned before, as Shukla Bindu, Rakta Bindu and Mishra Bindu, represented with white color as a sperm, the red color of menses and then mixed color respectively. They represent the power of knowledge or Jnana Shakti, will or Ichcha Shakti, and action or Kriya Shakti in the form of moon, fire and sun, and represented with Devis as Rodri, Vama and Jyestha. Vama is Brahma and Jyestha is called Vishnu, and by Rodri is Rudra. Vama dwells in the navel, Jyestha in the heart, and Rodri always in the head. They also represent Yajurved, Rigved and Samved with Sanskrit letter A, Ha and Ma, Aham respectively. Together called Ambika, the mother of all powers. In Prapanchasara Tantra it says, she whose name is Tattva is Chinnamatra. By proximity to the light, she wishes to create. She becomes massive and assumes the form of Bindu. Then in time, she divides herself into two. The one on the right is Bindu and on the left is Visarga. The right and the left are respectively distinguished as male or Shiva and female or Shakti. Think again as Ardhanarishwara. So she wishes to distort herself. Here distortion or stress is the creation. The sound hum is the Bindu and Sah is Visarga. Bindu is Purusha and Visarga is Prakriti. This Hamsa is the union of Prakriti and Purusha which pervades in the universe as Nada. In Vedanta, the same is stated as Soham, which becomes Om. And at the time of dissolution, this universe is withdrawn into the Shakti, which projected it. It collapses into a point or void without any magnitude. This is Shiva Bindu, which is again withdrawn into Shiva Shakti Tattva, which produced it. It may sound like the concept of black hole. Anyway, coming back to Kala, each Tattva has certain Kalas or activities as well. For simple understanding, there are three main activities of Ishvara. Represented as creation or Srishti is a Kala of Brahma. Protection and maintenance or Palan is a Kala of Vishnu. And Mrityu or death is Kala of Rudra. Each Kala is again associated with their Shakti as Saraswati, Lakshmi and Parvati. Different texts and traditions speak of different Kalas. In Sri Yantra, the Bindu at the center represents the union of Shiv Shakti. The ultimate Shakti, by her own will or swecha, assumed the form of the universe, first as pulsating essence. The kala that emanates from the first nad is composed of 16 rays, which are 16 vowels of Sanskrit alphabet. The 16th ray is called Amrit Kala, represented by Kameshwari in form of Shodasi. The quivering union of Shiva and Shakti gradually creates the different mandalas of Sri Yantra, which corresponds to different letters of Sanskrit alphabet. This Sri Yantra represents the Adi Shakti as the universe, Vishwa or Brahmand. So the Kala is the individualizing principle as evolution or emanation, and Bindu is the point through which consciousness expresses itself in the created universe, and Nad is the flow of the consciousness from the infinite through the Bindu to the object of creation. The Shakta Tantra speaks of 94 main kalas. Out of these, 50 are Matrika Kala, which manifests through 4 stages of sound called Para, Pashyanti, Madhyama and Vakhri stages, resulting as the gross letter or Varna. In simple words, Vakhri is that spoken word, like right now, speech via the mouth as Kriya Shakti. Madhyama emerges from the mind as whispering or thought, as Jnana Shakti, when words are not fully formulated, usually via the breath. Pashyanti is the stage behind the thought or desire or Ichcha Shakti. And Para is the intention, the state of awareness as Ambika Shakti. Sri Yantra is made of 36 tattvas. This chakra represents the cosmic form of the Supreme Goddess, and the Kamakala is the first display of activity from which all 36 tattvas manifest and dissolve. So that is the Kamakala in its nutshell. But in layman's term, think of Shiva Bindu as male sperm when meets Shakti as female egg or bij, fertilizes as mixed Bindu, in which when the first vibration or spanda or heartbeat happens, that is the sound nad, having the intelligence to further grows into a baby to adult with all the tattvas. This is creation, but at the time of dissolution, the heartbeat or nada merges into Shakti, and Shakti merges into Shiva. As Shakti becomes inactive, dissolution is realized as a supreme void in the form of Parashakti or Param Shiva. So this is the Shakta philosophy using Kamakala. I hope it was easy for you to understand. I tried to give you 2 different approaches to understand the Shakta philosophy. So thank you for watching this video. Hope this was useful for you. In my next video, I will share how Shaiva Shakta Tantra answers the ultimate questions. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you so much for listening. If you like the information, please subscribe, like and share so that everyone else can also enjoy this.